Imagine if there is a force in your brain that can transform your goals into reality, failures into successes, and everyday circumstances into extraordinary ones. This force is not magic, rather, it is hidden energy, the same energy that you spend every day without even realizing it when you switch between tasks, look through your phone, or get sucked into pointless thoughts. But there's an issue with the world we live in now. Focus, the master key that determines whether your life is a faded sketch or a vibrantly colored picture, is this energy. To activate your brain, which is a hidden energy power plant, you must learn to determine where to target. This book is about seeing more, about turning your thoughts into a light, your attention into a laser, and your time into the fuel for an opportunity-filled existence, not about working harder. It has taught you to react, not to lead, in order to live and develop. What if we could reverse this flow? Doesn't fit with stories that try to show your deepest emotions. In an increasingly linked and stimuli-rich society, attention is a valuable but paradoxically finite resource. Our attention is continuously distracted by a plethora of notifications, work-related demands, personal issues, and other commitments, but when we learn to actively and intentionally focus our minds, an inner force, a kind of hidden energy, becomes visible. This power can be thought of as the ability to guide all. It's simple to underestimate the importance of paying attention because we don't always notice the results of our distractions. Despite its complexity, the human brain isn't very adept at handling multiple tasks at once without dramatically deteriorating quality, according to Neuroscience study. This is because multitasking is valued in our culture, and the ability to think about various things at once may seem advantageous. Knowing that focus is a form of inner energy means that we are putting vital force into the area of our lives that we decide to focus on. This implies that if we decide to concentrate our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors on something particular, like a career venture, a relationship improvement project, or the quest for self-awareness, the force of our attention, our latent energy, is diluted and does not reach its full potential. Despite its enormous potential, this hidden energy is often overlooked since it is internal and ethereal rather than a tangible resource like money or an item. Just think about how many times we've seen someone achieve amazing feats in a short period of time by focusing solely on one goal. If we shift our attention in dozens of different directions, we will struggle to achieve significant progress in any of the areas. We can better focus our attention by planning our chores using time management techniques like time blocking or the Pomodoro method. It's also essential to learn how to turn down some outside distractions. Examples demonstrate how focused attention may turn into a real growth lever, since what we commit to tends to expand naturally. To embrace focus as an internal energy, however, requires self-control and work. The idea that multitasking increases productivity is one of the reasons we undervalue the importance of focus. In today's world, managing multiple demands at once is hailed as a quick way to get more done. However, studies in psychology and neuroscience reveal that this actually has the opposite effect, as the brain must constantly switch between tasks, which drastically reduces our productivity and quality of work. The constant notifications from computers, tablets, and cell phones create an environment of seemingly endless interruptions between various settings. This hyper-connected society also reinforces mental distraction by making us believe that we have to react to every warning or message right now. Many people overlook the value of focus since it appears normal and even desirable to divide one's attention across several topics or platforms. We often undervalue the power of focus because of our hazy goals and ambitions. Without clear objectives, our priorities get jumbled and any distraction could take center stage. When we don't have a clear direction to guide our judgments, our emphasis completely shifts. Amidst worries or superficial amusement, it could show up as fleeting actions or vanish entirely. Activities that fail to adequately support the most significant aspects of our lives. In addition, there are gadgets all around us that vie for our attention. Tablets, laptops, and cell phones all send out notifications continuously, creating an environment that seems to be never-ending. This hyper-connected environment further reinforces mental distraction by making us feel as though we have to react to every message or warning right now. As a result, many people are unaware of the advantages of attention because it seems that without clear goals and objectives, our priorities get jumbled and any distraction could take center stage. Focus is purely accidental without a clear direction to guide our judgments. It can sometimes manifest in short-term tasks or entirely vanish in the midst of stress or superficial thought. It is typical, even desirable, to split one's focus between multiple platforms or occupations. Often, we don't fully see the ramifications of living an unfocused life until the negative effects start to accumulate. We sometimes dismiss attention as secondary as long as these issues aren't too significant. However, issues with work productivity, a lack of progress toward personal objectives, flimsy relationships, and a feeling of overwhelm are all obvious signs that our focus is dispersed. To understand why attention is such a powerful force, it is essential to look at the neuroscientific aspects that underlie it. Despite its complexity, the human brain has a limited capacity for processing and remembering information. When we try to finish multiple tasks at once, our working memory's capacity, which is responsible for temporarily storing information while we perform tasks, is limited. Ironically, developing this skill could lead to greater success in our personal and professional lives. Understanding how the brain's attention systems interact is another essential component of understanding concentration. To put it simply, there are two main attention networks: voluntary and involuntary. Voluntary attention is what we consciously exercise, but involuntary attention is triggered by external stimuli and typically occurs without our awareness, such as when someone decides to focus their attention on something. When we engage in fun or meaningful activities, the human brain releases neurotransmitters like dopamine, which are closely related to reward and motivation systems. This reward system encourages us to repeat certain behaviors or thoughts by fortifying the neural connections associated with them. Learning to move through the voluntary network without always being drawn into the involuntary focus is the biggest challenge. Another crucial factor to take into account is how stress affects our ability to focus. The body releases cortisol and adrenaline in reaction to moderate stress, and small amounts of these chemicals can temporarily improve our ability to focus. When we are deeply involved in something that we find meaningful, our brains tend to stay more focused. If the activity doesn't motivate us or make sense, they will go for more rewarding stimuli, like social media updates or other forms of instant entertainment. Additionally, mindfulness and meditation have been shown to benefit the prefrontal cortex and other attention-related brain areas, according to neuroscience research. Regular meditation can thicken the parts of the cortex involved in impulse control and emotional regulation. Because persistent and excessive stress eventually impairs our ability to focus for extended periods of time, maintaining the mental clarity necessary for sustained focus depends on hormonal balance and efficient stress management. Understanding these neuroscientific ideas helps us appreciate focus and directs our efforts to improve it. When we realize that motivation and emotional balance are important aspects of attention and that our brain functions best when it is focused on one task at a time, we are more likely to create situations that are conducive to a state of total concentration. Additionally, being aware of how the brain works helps us make better decisions. We must decide where, when, and how fiercely to use this unseen power we call attention if we want to maximize its benefits. The first step is self-awareness. Take some time to observe your everyday tasks and honestly think about where and how you use your mental energy. You may discover that the majority of distractions happen when you have free time and decide to check social media or watch brief movies that take longer than necessary. Activity tracking is a helpful technique for adding substance to this identifying process. By recording the tasks you complete during the day and the amount of time spent on them, you can see how much of your day is spent on activities that impair concentration, whether it's because of background noise or frequent interruptions from coworkers. The development of a distraction map that pinpoints the situations that most commonly cause you to lose focus is facilitated by this initial diagnosis. Assist you in reaching your main objectives. Spreadsheets, apps, or just pen and paper can be used with this technique. The key is to continuously monitor the situation in order to identify areas that require adjustment and evaluate behavioral patterns. Another helpful tool is trigger identification. Everybody has times or situations where they want to find something to distract them. For example, after completing a challenging task, we might feel like we deserve a long vacation, yet in other circumstances, it might be when. We can identify these triggers and develop preventive strategies, such as scheduling shorter breaks or using time-focused techniques like the Pomodoro technique, which balances periods of intense concentration with rest intervals, to help us avoid getting distracted when we're bored or faced with a difficult task. It's also important to understand that distractions can occur at home as well. Some situations there can be just as harmful to focus. Once you have identified the distractions and understand how they work, it becomes easier to set boundaries, learn time management skills, and most importantly create habits that promote a more focused mental state. These small energy leaks can include letting visual and oral distractions take over the environment, using your phone for hours before bed, or taking frequent breaks from reading to check messages. There is a deeper aspect that deals with how our attention may influence or even create our own reality, even though we typically think of personal ambitions in terms of planning and organizing. As per the adage, where you focus, you expand. Concentrating not only guides our actions in the real world but also conveys our innermost desires to the universe and subconscious. Consistently concentrating on one's own objectives and desires tends to draw chances, assets, and situations that quicken the satisfaction of those goals by clinging tenaciously to an image of what we want. By doing this, we are creating an internal vibration that attracts favorable conditions through affinity. If your goal is to start your own business, for example, just thinking and feeling about it opens your mind to ideas, partnerships, and people who have similar goals. Our level of focus appears to determine how often we interact with the outside world, exposing us to people and situations that allow us to achieve these. What if your brain could be rewired to focus on the important things? The 21-day Quantum Thinking Challenge will transform your ideas and behaviors by teaching you how to develop mental clarity, discipline, presence, and gratitude. To help you put this strategy into practice in your everyday life, click the link in the first pinned comment. One popular technique is visualization, which involves dedicating a brief amount of time each day to emotionally and clearly envision yourself accomplishing your goals. In order to bridge the gap between desire and tangible action, the brain uses this mental pre-experience to help program perceptions and actions. Apart from employing creativity, it also involves evoking the feelings of joy, satisfaction, and safety that accompany achievement. Personal goals must guide our focus, which necessitates consistency and, most importantly, candor about our own preferences. It's useless to try to attract something just to boost your ego or because it seems to be popular with others. When our focus is steadfast and our intentions are clear, we not only accomplish our goals faster, but we also begin actively constructing the world we most want. If focus is a hidden power with enormous potential, habits serve as channels that direct and sustain it. As focus turns into a genuine creative force, every choice and action becomes an expression of that higher purpose. Many people find it difficult to transform their initial inspiration into daily discipline, yet this is when habit strength really shines. To put it another way, it is not enough to have a short burst of intense focus, you also need to establish consistent routines and habits that keep your mind ready to concentrate on the things that matter. When trying to develop habits that maintain attention, it's a good idea to start by rethinking your routine to identify chores that can be improved or rethought. For instance, if it's important to determine when you feel most productive during the day. Some choose to meditate, perform breathing exercises, or write in a journal as soon as they wake up. These simple activities that prepare the mind for a more attentive state support the notion that attention is something that is created from the very first minutes of waking. Making reading emails and social media a mindful morning ritual is one method to stop the habit. While some people function better in the morning, others do better at night. Try to match your biological rhythm as closely as possible with more focused effort. This means scheduling more routine or administrative work for times when you don't have as much energy and saving your energy bursts for important activities. Another crucial component is scheduling planned breaks, such as working in 25-minute periods and then taking a brief respite. Although stopping may seem like it breaks your flow, it actually aids in the brain's recovery and prevents fatigue. Maintain complete focus for extended periods of time without rest, thus, scheduling breaks helps maintain mental clarity. Establishing due dates for each task can also help with the formation of good attentional habits. When we have a limited deadline, our brains tend to work harder since we know we have to do the project by then. This encourages us to get rid of distractions as we become more conscious of how important every minute is. Finally, it's equally important to form healthier habits that promote your physical health. For instance, sleep deprivation impairs one's capacity for logical thought, memory, and information blockout. Therefore, undervaluing rest could reverse all the effort invested into creating focused routines. There is no denying the growing significance of mindfulness and meditation practices in today's world, which is marked by constant stress and electronic distractions. And mental health, getting enough sleep, maintaining a good diet, and exercising all have a direct impact on how well you pay attention. On the other hand, meditation can be thought of as a collection of particular methods that facilitate the growth of this mental presence. All meditation techniques follow the same definition of mindfulness, which is to be fully present in the now without getting distracted by thoughts of the past or the future. It involves paying attention to your own internal processes, including feelings, thoughts, and physical sensations, without suppressing or ignoring them. The primary distinction between mindfulness and meditation in terms of focus is how they train the brain to resist allowing distractions to take over. By practicing mindfulness, we create an interior space that makes it easier to recognize when our thoughts are wandering. With this knowledge, we may gently concentrate on what matters at that specific time. One of mindfulness meditation's other benefits is improved attention. Improves emotional control. Internal conflicts, concerns, or even anger and impatience are often linked to a lack of focus. When these feelings come up, they could swiftly take our focus away. Meditation helps us make more deliberate judgments by helping us to notice these emotions without reacting automatically. This is evident in how we react to difficult discussions, urgent deadlines, or unforeseen situations in our daily lives. Another benefit is that mindfulness and meditation are accessible and adaptable, no special training is needed. There are easy exercises that can be done anywhere at home, at work, or even on public transit without the need for a fancy environment, fancy clothes, or a ton of free time. Longevity is not the key to success, consistency is. For instance, it may eventually be more advantageous to meditate for 5 minutes every day as opposed to long periods just occasionally. For those who wish to incorporate these activities into their daily routine, it can be beneficial to establish a daily ritual. For example, it could be when you wake up. Although focus is typically associated with academic or professional objectives, such as finishing assignments or improving study skills, it can also have a profoundly positive impact on your life. It's important to pick a time when you can concentrate on the practice without getting sidetracked, such as shortly before bed or work. As mindfulness increases, you'll see changes in your ability to focus, be more creative, and solve problems in a more balanced way. Interacting with friends, family, co-workers, and even total strangers is an essential aspect of our lives. The quality of these relationships is closely linked to our capacity to truly listen to others and what they have to say, whether orally or through nonverbal cues. When we talk about focus in relationships, we imply being totally present when interacting with someone. Finding conversations where people aren't distracted by technology is getting harder and harder. In these situations, focusing means turning off or at least reducing extraneous distractions and concentrating on the individual in front of you. By doing this, you not only demonstrate respect but also open yourself up to nuances in needs, intentions, and feelings that could otherwise be missed. Active listening is one technique that shows how focus can change communication. It entails listening with. Active listening, for instance, can foster more assertive decision-making and prevent misunderstandings in interpersonal relationships. It also lessens the likelihood of disagreements resulting from a communication breakdown. This type of approach makes the other person feel valued and heard while they are speaking without making judgments or planning your next step. Relationships start with making eye contact and reading facial expressions. In the ordinary course of daily life, we frequently miss crucial cues that people give us through gestures, speech inflections, or facial expressions. You can strengthen relationships and improve conversations by intentionally focusing on the other person. This also conveys a message of presence and concern. It's important to keep in mind that when discussing how focus shapes our environment, it is impossible to ignore the spiritual and intuitive element that underlies this experience. Taking notes, reviewing important points, and taking responsibility during a conversation are ways to demonstrate that you valued that specific moment, even if everyone has various notions about spirituality from religion to occult or other spiritual practices. Intuition is commonly defined as a silent understanding that emerges from within, typically without an immediate intellectual explanation. When we learn to quiet the mind that is overburdened with information from the outside world, this inner voice can help us make decisions that are more in line with our values and objectives. This view holds that intuition is simply a sense of something greater. There is growing agreement that something other than the purely logical influences how we perceive the universe and, consequently, what we focus on. Focusing on intuition is having faith in the inner wisdom that emerges from perceptions, clues, or emotions that foretell outcomes or directives to be followed. This aids in our reconnection with our true selves and with a more expansive sense of being. Some may find this to be studying philosophy, praying, practicing transcendental meditation, or doing other things. Others may find it to be simple outdoor reflection periods or personal rituals that arouse feelings of. One of the primary methods for strengthening this spiritual connection is the practice of silence. The mind can relax and become more sensitive to subtler senses when it is given a brief respite from the busy routine of daily life, if possible. Many people say that while they are in this calmer state, they find unexpected solutions to their difficulties. All of these strategies help us maintain our concentration on something bigger than our everyday worries by providing our thoughts with more significant objectives. It's crucial to remember that when we talk about spirituality and intuition, we're not talking about a process that has no practical application. Rather, the insights that come from deeper connections act as a guiding light that affects tangible choices in daily life. This is the ability to focus that aligns with both particular goals and an internal aspect of self-awareness or clarity on previously unclear life paths. It's about realizing that our inner selves are intelligent enough to guide us toward our greatest ambitions. When we choose to cultivate this inner voice and create space for it in our lives, focus becomes more profound. This blends thoughtful preparation with genuine sympathy. This internal connection, which is motivated by something more than immediate curiosity, contributes to the sense of meaning and purpose that permeates all we do. When we begin acting in accordance with who we really are, bringing mind, body, and spirit together toward what we truly want to manifest, this intersection of reason and intuition enhances our ability to create reality. From upholding everyday routines to being open to spirituality and intuition, the capacity to focus not only increases our productivity but also shapes the reality we create. Each of the elements discussed here supports the idea that you can broaden where you focus by actively utilizing this hidden energy. To create the life we genuinely want, we consciously transform our fantasies into objectives, which in turn become actual goals, and finally, goals into measurable outcomes.